What's up everybody, welcome to We Do Tech. Have you ever wanted to do a full blacked out build or maybe a dark night theme build? Well, we have found the perfect motherboard for you. And I honestly think that this is the best X570 board on the market right now as well. Enter the ASUS ROG Crosshair V3 Dark Hero. Now this is sort of a refresh of the ASUS Crosshair Hero, and it was a brilliant decision to do a refresh because they almost created a masterpiece with the Dark Hero. Now sadly, we won't be getting the X670 boards for the Zen 3 CPUs, but I honestly think that this is close enough to being an X670. Fortunately, the Dark Hero is all set out of the box for 5000 series CPUs from AMD, and honestly won't have any issues with overclocking a CPU to its maximum capacity. Then you get the added bonus of, well, almost everything. But we will look at all those goodies a bit later. At the time of filming, we really struggled to find prices, as it was out of stock almost everywhere. But we were finally able to find a price on Newegg for $400.
Sorry for interrupting guys, but I just want to let you guys know, if you want to get yourself some new PC gaming gear, definitely go check out dreamweartech.co.za, linked in the video description, where you can get some very nice shiny products like the ASUS Dark Hero, which we're going to take a look at, and then also a bunch of other stuff. Forget about subpar customer service. Dreamwear Tech delivers nationwide, keeps you updated on every step of the way, and also something again very special is that everything comes inside eco-friendly packaging. So go check out dreamweartech.co.za and get your new shiny ASUS products today. Now, if you excuse me, I'm gonna drink some coffee and let you get back into the video.
So it's definitely not the cheapest X570 board on the market, as some of the closest competitors started around $300 for the same tier board. But then on the other hand, you also get some competitors' flagship boards going for around $700. And to be honest, the Dark Hero is very close to being flagship material. So it is actually very good value for money. Now we combine it with a Ryzen 9 5900X, and we feel that this is really the bare minimum required CPU to combine with this board. And then T-Force's extreme memory. So join us to take a more in-depth look at the features and measure the overclocking capabilities of the Dark Hero. Now for the look, you are met with an all-black design that is complemented by very subtle chrome accents. Etched into the PCB cover, there's an ROG logo that also has RGB. And just to add it all together, covering the rear I/O is a shroud with the ROG logo on it and RGB lighting. Also, most of the motherboard is covered in heatsinks, and at the back is an integrated I/O shield. Now, with the styling of the board, it would go perfect with a dark styled build. Honestly, black builds are so much easier to do because you get so many black components. And on the other hand, if you do find white components, they go for a very premium price as well. Now, the motherboard is equipped with AMD's AM4 sockets that supports almost all the Ryzen CPUs launched to date, except the 1000 series. Another thing is the new CPUs work only with motherboards from the X470, B450 and later chipset generations, including the new X570 and B550 boards. And then it's also down to the motherboard manufacturers to make it work, issuing the proper BIOS updates. The AM4 socket is also the first in the world to feature the new PCI Express 4 slots. But we will get into those slots a little bit later. Now you have a total of 4 DDR4 DIMM slots that support a maximum of 128 gigs at a top speed of 5100 megahertz, which is one of the highest frequencies supported on a X570 board on the market right now. An additional feature is the ASUS Optimum 3 that reduces crosstalk between the DIMMs and improves memory performance. Now, getting into those PCIe slots that we talked about earlier, as we now know, AMD is running with the PCIe 4 slots. There are rumors going about that Intel will join in the PCIe 4 with their new Rocket Lake X CPUs. Now, PCIe 4 is running twice as fast as the previous PCIe 3. But with GPUs, it really hasn't made that big of a difference yet, as Steve from Gamers Nexus has already made a video comparing the two. And I quote, "The difference is real, but also irrelevant, as it was at most a 2% increase between the two." Now, the real difference comes in with NVMe SSDs more so than GPUs. The Dark Hero has two PCIe 4's X16s that are safe slots, which I just love. And this helps support the hardware and minimize flex on the motherboard. It also has one PCIe 4 X4 slot and one PCIe 4 X1 slot. Now the Dark Hero does support both NVIDIA SLI and AMD Crosshair. There is a total of 2 NVMe PCIe 4 M.2 slots along with 8 SATA 6GB ports. We're not sure how the lanes are set up and we couldn't find any information on it either, so unfortunately we can't elaborate on that. Now turning the motherboard around, looking at the I/O, you will find an exquisite integrated I/O shield that's just packed to the brim with very useful ports. Now I honestly hope that this becomes the norm in all boards in the near future. Now there are dedicated clear CMOS and BIOS flashback buttons, 8 USB 3.2 Gen 2s, which 7 of them are Type A and 1 being a Type C. You also get 4 USB 3.2 Gen 1 Type A ports, Wi-Fi 6 plus Bluetooth 5, a 2.5 gigabit Ethernet port, and a very rare thing to see is an additional Ethernet port, this one running at 1 gigabit per second. Then you get your 5 audio jacks with the Supreme FX shielding technology, and lastly an SPDIF out port. Now I can honestly say this board is kitted out. The only thing that I would have liked extra would have been a USB 3.2 Gen 2X2 20 gig per second ports. But for everything else, this motherboard is honestly impressive. Now we took a look at the outside ports, let's take a look at the internal headers. So for the internal connectivity, there's one USB 3.2 Gen 2 header and also one USB 3.2 Gen 1 header. You also get 2 USB 2 headers, and with a total of 11 PWM connectors for cooling, the different options for cooling is also greatly increased. Now the RGB is handled by 2 Aora Gen 2 ARGB headers and 2 Aora RGB headers. Additionally, you have a thermal sensor header as well. And now finally, there's the start button, very useful when working on test benches like me. And a retry button that is aimed at overclockers. Now this will force the system into a reboot while keeping the same settings. Now let's get a bit technical. You get the standard 24-pin power connector and an 8 and 4-pin CPU power connector featuring ProCool 2 technology that improves power delivery whilst keeping excess heat to a minimum. This also means the VRMs have 14+2 power stages, each rated to handle 90 amps, ensuring you don't get starved of power while attempting those high overclocks. On top of that, each power stage is accompanied by a microfine alloy core choke rated to handle 45 amps. They also use 10K Japanese-made black metallic capacitors. That means the input and output filtering is provided by solid polymer capacitors rated to last thousands of hours under high temperatures. Now each VRM component has a specific purpose. PWM controllers and phase doublers control the circuit, with power stages doing the heavy lifting from an electrical and thermal standpoint. So it makes sense why the ROG Crosshair V3 Dark Hero utilizes a 16 power stage. The Dark Hero's power stages also sits at the top of the Infineon's lineup and features a low RDS on that reduces switching and conduction losses that helps to improve overall thermal headroom. Now the PWM controller is the same one we have seen on most ASUS high-end boards, the ASP1405i. The MOSFET looks to be completely new as we couldn't find any information about them anywhere, only that they are the X954 10RRs that can handle 90 amps, which is remarkable as that's the same as the ROG Maximus X2 Extreme, which is ASUS's flagship. Now remember what I said earlier about the Dark Hero being flagship material. It makes sense now, right? Now to keep all of that cool, the two VRM heatsinks are placed on top of the MOSFETs and chokes and are connected by a heat pipe that further increases the surface area for heat dissipation. That accompanied by a high quality thermal pad that improves the overall heat transfer from the system by bridging the heat generated by the power stages to the heatsink. Now the EFI BIOS by ASUS hasn't changed that much, except for a few new features for the Dark Hero. The main menu gives you an overview of the CPU, memory and BIOS version. Extreme tweakers where all the hard lifting is done. For example, setting the DOCP for memory and overclocking. Then the advanced menu offers options for configuring system devices including SATA and NVMe storage. One of the best features of the Dark Hero is the BIO option for dynamic OS switching. This feature allows you to set an overclock on all cores that your system will use under load until a certain temperature is reached. Now for the benchmark. To test the effectiveness of the cooler and the design of the VRMs, the IDA64 system stability test was used. Each test was ran for a duration of 30 minutes. Now, the results were at stock settings with no overclock applied, the idle temperatures were 50 degrees Celsius. After 30 minutes, the max temperature recorded was 61 degrees. Then finally, we tested a manual overclock of 4.6 GHz on all cores with a voltage of 1.4 volts. Now idle temperatures were again 50 degrees Celsius and maximum temperatures peaked at 66 degrees Celsius. Now we also used Cinebench R20 to determine how well our overclock works and the performance boost that we got. At stock settings, the Ryzen 9 5900X scored a multi-core score of 8083 points. Now with the manual overclock applied at 4.6 GHz, scores jumped up to 8946 on multi-core. This is more than a 10% performance increase. Now I must say that the ASUS ROG Crosshair V3 Dark Hero is probably one of my favorite motherboards on the market right now. Not only can it overclock like a flagship motherboard, it actually looks good as well. The RGB and build quality overall is extremely good. And I must say the 12 ports in the back really is nice as well. I myself use quite a lot of USB ports on my setup at home, so it is a very nice feature to have. Also the styling is very nice and it will fit into any build. Whether you do a colorful build, an all black build, a white and black build, it just will look so nice. So that's it. Thanks for watching, guys. Please remember, if you like this video, to like, share, subscribe and comment like always, and I'll check you guys next time. Cheers, guys.